In the penultimate episode of The Wheel of Time Season 3, a significant decision from the original material was reversed, ostensibly establishing one of the final books as the foundation for Perrin's subsequent narrative. Golden Eyes appears to be the last chapter in Perrin's Season 3 arc, as it devotes an entire episode to the Battle of Emond's Field from the Shadow Rising. Similar to the Shadow Rising, Perrin's journey concluded in the third season when the Two Rivers people defeated Paden Fane's Trolloc army. The efforts made by Perrin, Alana, Fael, and a few other Wheel of Time characters to get ready for the Trollocs, including Perrin's offer of an alliance to Dane Bornhald and the Trollocs, were largely similar to the build-up. But some of these characters, like Dane and Fael, made decisions that their book counterparts did not. They made it possible for Perrin to embark on what seems to be an unexpected journey by doing this. The conclusion of Golden Eyes suggests that, should Season 4 air, Towers of Midnight will be one of the storylines examined. The White Cloak's assistance against the Trollocs was contingent upon Perrin's surrender, according to both versions of the tale. Dane consented to work with the Two Rivers people in the Shadow Rising, but when it came time for them to take action, they decided to do nothing and let the conflict continue. This was basically the exact opposite of what Dane did in Episode 7 of Season 3 of The Wheel of Time. He initially declined, but at the last minute he changed his mind and brought the White Cloaks into the Two Rivers to join the battle. Fael, who had been previously instructed to leave by Perrin, recruited Devon Ride in her place, so the White Cloaks' decision to skip the decisive battle did not spell disaster for the Two Rivers in the Shadow Rising. Without the need for White Cloak support, they helped repel the Trolloc army and ensured Perrin's victory at the Battle of Emond's Field as last-minute reinforcements. The White Cloaks attempted to arrest Perrin even though they had renounced their end of the bargain. Not surprisingly, the people of Two Rivers turned them away. However, Fael never left and returned with the residents of Devon Ride in Golden Eyes from the Wheel of Time. The White Cloak's aid was in fact required in this instance. Perrin accompanied Dane's men voluntarily and persuaded the people of Two Rivers to agree with his choice because they did offer much-needed assistance. Because it now places Perrin under the White Cloak's custody in Season 4, Season 3 enabled a significant reveal of the Shadow Rising's conclusion. Although Perrin was not taken prisoner by the White Cloaks, it is important to remember that he did eventually find himself in a similar circumstance, albeit not until Towers of Midnight, Book 13 of the series. Two threats faced by Perrin's group in Towers of Midnight were Grendel, one of the 13 Forsaken in the Wheel of Time books, and Dane Bornhald's White Cloak army. The reincarnated Ishamael gave Grendel instructions to deal with Perrin. The White Cloaks, meanwhile, wanted Perrin to pay for alleged crimes against their members. After putting himself through a trial by the White Cloaks, Perrin was forced to set aside his disagreements with them due to Grendel's scheming. The Wolf Brother came to an agreement with Dane Bornhald and the White Cloaks at the end of Towers of Midnight's Perrin story, which allowed them to be unlikely allies in the last battle. Although it would be unexpected for the Wheel of Time to jump so far ahead in Perrin's storyline, there are similarities between Towers of Midnight and the Shadow Rising that would make this change seem natural. The death of Geoffram Bornhald is the pivotal moment in both Perrin tales. In light of this, it does make some sense for the Wheel of Time to end it right away following its adaptation of the Shadow Rising, as opposed to dragging it out for multiple seasons after many viewers have already forgotten it. This is undoubtedly made possible by the events of the Shadow Rising's conclusion. Perrin could have been put on trial for Geoffram's murder much sooner if the White Cloaks had apprehended him at that point. This will occur exactly as it did in Towers of Midnight, according to Perrin's conversation with Dane, in which she stated her willingness to accept White Cloak justice for the events of the Wheel of Time Season 2's conclusion. Furthermore, Perrin's next adventure doesn't have a clear alternative. The Fires of Heaven, the sequel to the Shadow Rising, notably lacked Perrin. It's possible that the show is going to the Fires of Heaven next because Ravin, the Forsaken who opposes Rand in that book, is set to play a significant antagonist later on. If so, the best way to guarantee that Perrin has a role in a possible Fires of Heaven adaptation might be to choose one of his future arcs. It's not impossible to incorporate a largely self-contained plot like Towers of Midnight into the fourth season of the show, but there are challenges involved. Technically, Perrin's trial and Grendel's appearance can now occur, but the plot hasn't developed to the point where all the necessary elements are in place. Queen Morgase Traken is one example of this. She was the judge but only because she had lost the Lion Throne, while the TV show version of Morgase is still in charge in Ander. Additionally, there is the issue of Galad Damodred, a senior White Cloak and Morgase's stepson. Galad is one of the primary characters in Towers of Midnight, and he is crucial to Perrin's interactions with the White Cloaks. The show hasn't done anything to establish Galad's affiliation with the Children of the Light, which is the issue here. Therefore, Season 4 of The Wheel of Time would either need to accelerate that considerably or run the risk of making yet another significant shift by failing to align Galad with the White Cloaks.